going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today what we're going to be doing is starting off a new series, which is what I'm just going to call the steak series. So I'm going to be trying my best to learn how to perfect steaks. Obviously I'm not like a professional chef or anything like that. I don't have like professional cooking experience other than just at home for myself and for my friends and family. Excuse me. But I really do love steaks, and I really want to learn how to perfect a steak and be able to make it as good as I possibly can. And hopefully, if y'all follow along, eventually, if you follow exactly what I do, you can also make a really good steak. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Definitely be sure to let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. But let's get into it. All right, so for today's steak, what we have here is a prime New York strip. So New York strip steaks are pretty good. I don't really know like a ton about steak, but I do like New York strip steaks. I would prefer a ribeye. I just don't have enough money to buy a good thick ribeye right now, unfortunately. But we got some nice thick New York strip steaks here. I don't know how thick they are, probably 3/4 of an inch or something like that, an inch thick cut. And as you can see, it's prime. So I believe the grade for meats, the lowest is going to be, I want to say select and then choice and then prime if you're in the US. So prime is going to be the best, but the main thing that you're going to want to pay attention to when you want to get a good steak, and I can just go ahead and open this here, is you want to get good marbling of fat. So the distribution of the fat, marbling, if you don't know what that is, if you're just like learning with me, the fat being distributed throughout the meat, not just like in big chunks on the outside and stuff like that, is what you want. Obviously the marbling on this thing isn't like crazy. If you've ever seen an A5 Wagyu steak, you can see that there's literally fat everywhere on the inside, like within the lean part of the meat. So that's what you're gonna want optimally for the best, most tender and flavorful steak. But as you can see, the marbling on this isn't bad. It's pretty good for a strip steak. I think it's decent for what I could find, not going to like a nice meat market, literally just going to the store. But yeah, so you're gonna want some nice marbling. As you can see, it looks all right. But either way, the first thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is we are going to season it with just salt. So we're gonna do I forget what it's called, but a quick salt season. You're gonna wanna get some coarse salt if you can. Coarse salt's probably going to be better from what I could hear, because you can tell how much you're putting on there more than the finely ground salt, because it's covering so much of the surface area and it's so thin and fine. So we're gonna go ahead and get a layer of salt, put on these, and then we're gonna let them sit. And you know, honestly, I'm probably only gonna cook 2 of them right now. I might save this one for like next week or something like that, just so that I can have another steak to cook, because I don't need to eat all these right now, and I do want another attempt. So I'm probably just gonna cook these 2 steaks right now. This is 2 steaks. This is probably the biggest one, and then the marbling on this one's pretty decent. So I'm probably just gonna cook these 2. So obviously, like I said, you want more coarse salt. This is kind of hard to tell. It's not super coarse, but you do want to put a lot of salt on there. You're just gonna get a good salt layer around the entire steak, and this is what I'm gonna be doing. Usually, I used to like to do salt, pepper, garlic powder before, but what I've been trying to learn how to cook doing recently is doing the just doing aromatics as I cook it. But who knows, maybe I will actually put salt, garlic, pepper, or salt, garlic, and pepper this next time that I cook a steak. But for right now, I have been trying to use aromatics, so using the actual using rosemary, thyme, and just actual fresh garlic as I baste it, rather than using the powder. So once we've gotten a good layer of that salt on there, basically what we're gonna be doing is letting it sit in the fridge for a couple hours. The best is going to be overnight, is what you're gonna wanna do, is let a steak sit overnight. But you're gonna wanna cover this thing in salt. As you can see, this thing is covered in salt. And you are going to let that penetrate the layers of the steak. And like I said, sitting it overnight is going to be the best, because that's when it's really going to be fully soaked in and penetrating the steak. And it's going to be better if you have a steak with more fat. But regardless, This thing's got a ton of salt on it, and I hope this isn't too much because this is just what I've learned from other people doing online. Like, this is the proper way to do it. So I hope that this isn't too fine of salt and that it's not gonna make it too salty. But there's only one way to find out. So now that we've got these things properly salted, let's go ahead and throw these in the fridge for a few hours until all that salt has disappeared. So you're gonna wanna see all that salt pretty much gone. And yeah. And you know what? I actually do change my mind. Last minute change here. I actually do want to put a little bit of garlic on there. This is just, just making up my mind right here. But actually, I'll do one of them with garlic powder, one without. I'll do this one with garlic powder. So I'm not gonna put a lot because I am using fresh garlic later, but just put a little bit of garlic powder on there. Because I do love my garlic and I really want it to taste garlicky, but I've been wondering if it's better just to use the aromatic, the fresh version, fresh garlic, rather than using garlic powder. So we'll see how this turns out. So this one is going to be the one with garlic, and the bigger one is going to be the one with just fresh garlic. Garlic powder, fresh garlic. What are you doing over there, Missy? All right, so it hasn't been a full few hours yet because I have work to go to. So unfortunately, I'm not able to wait until the salt is fully disintegrated. But as you can tell on this one, see how it's like, just looks watery and it looks like smooth. This one, you can see all the salt granules. So I'm not sure why this one looks more like that, but my hunch is that that's because this is actually the garlic powder, not the actual salt. Because as you can see, it looks like most of the salt has actually been soaked into the meat, which is what you want. So either way, it's been a little while. It's sat. The least you want it to sit is probably around 30 minutes. It's okay if it sits, only 30 minutes rather than like overnight or for a few hours. It's just gonna be best if you let it sit for that longer period of time. But now that we've got both of our steaks here, what we're gonna be doing is now we're gonna go get our fresh herbs. So we have our garlic right here. You're gonna need to obviously cut the outside off of these. Then we have our rosemary and our thyme. So go ahead and go get those out. And then next we are going to start cooking the steaks. All right, so we're going to want to peel these. I'm just gonna cut the tips off.
Window to my soul. Come and get it.
All right, so for the rosemary, literally all you do is open it and you grab a thing of rosemary. I really don't think you even, well, I guess I'm doing 2 steaks, so, maybe use this for one of them. You don't need a whole lot of it because this stuff is really strong. Like this, you don't need a whole sprig or whatever. I just like to think that you only really need half of that because it's pretty strong stuff. I mean, they're not perfectly sized. I'm not too worried about it being like, them being perfect size or whatever. But you obviously want to cover a good portion of the steak. So, I think these are fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want it to be perfect, maybe cut them the same length. But you're gonna do the same thing for the thyme. And like I said, the thyme and the rosemary are pretty strong. So you really don't need to be using a ton of these things. So like this is good. This is good for one. I'm gonna use about 2 of these for one and then 2 for the other. And you don't need a huge ass sprig, if that's what you wanna call them. So there we go. Maybe we'll get one with a little bit more. As you can see, this one doesn't really have a lot on it versus one like this. So let's get one with a little bit more. Okay, here we go. Here's 2. So we're gonna put 2 on each and then 1 of these rosemary sprigs on each. So now that we've got those, what we're going to do here is, as you can see, I have my garlic, right? Well, the thing is all the flavor for the garlic is on the inside. So what I'm gonna do, rather than just throw these in there when I'm butter basting, because if you don't know what butter basting is, it's basically when after you've seared your steak properly, what you do is you put butter in the pan, you turn the heat down, and then you put your fresh herbs in, and then you put the garlic in, and you put it in there, and basically what happens is you spoon the butter into or onto the steak, and it cooks the steak more thoroughly, but it also adds flavor to the steak because the flavor of the garlic is getting into the butter. But all the flavor of the garlic is on the inside. So what my idea is to do this. So flatten it a little bit. Use your palm. Excuse me. Because all the flavor is coming out when you do that. And maybe that's not the right way of doing it, but that's just what I feel like trying to do because I feel like it'll work better. Obviously, I don't want to chop this up into little pieces because then when I'm trying to butter baste, I'm going to be throwing a bunch of pieces of garlic directly on top of the steak, which you're more trying to get the flavor of the garlic out into the butter and spoon that onto the steak. But either way, now I've got our fresh herbs and then we've got our garlic. So let's go ahead and start cooking this steak. All right, so first things first, we got our oils. So the reason why I have two is just to show you, I'm actually all out, unfortunately, of avocado oil right now. And the reason why I like to use this for steaks is what I like to do is sear the outside of it. And in order to do that, you want to put the pan at a really high temperature. But avocado oil has a high smoke point, which means you can put the temperature higher, allowing you to sear it better and more properly. But I'm all out. So the reason why it's better to have a higher smoke point if you really want a good sear is because, for example, olive oil, the smoke point is lower than the avocado oil, which means if you try to put it at too high of a temperature, it's going to burn. And when the oil burns, then it affects the taste of your steak and it will make your steak taste burnt. So you can put the temperature of the pan hotter with avocado oil because the smoke point is higher. And so you can get a better sear without affecting the taste of your steak by burning it. So unfortunately we're out of that, so we're not gonna be able to do that, which means the temperature is not gonna be quite as hot today, but just got ourselves some extra virgin olive oil. So we're gonna go ahead and set our temperature for for the pan. Let's put it at about, I'm gonna put it about halfway, or a little bit more than halfway, if you can see that right there. And then we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of oil. Let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. So you're gonna just wait for this to heat up. Obviously, the more fatty your steak is, the less oil you're gonna need. So like for an A5 Wagyu, the thing about it is that there's so much fat in the steak that you don't actually really need oil. But this isn't a super fatty cut of steak, but as you can tell, there's some big chunks of fat right here. There's fat right there. So we don't need a ton of oil. I may have put a little bit too much, but if you do put too much oil, I just, dump some of it out. You'll be fine. And also, if you don't have a cast iron or a non-stick, you might need to use more oil. It's just going to be dependent on your pan as well. So just something to think about. But we're just going to go ahead and wait for this pan to heat up before we throw these steaks on. Everybody. And I actually almost forgot, I want to put some pepper on these steaks. So I'm going to go ahead and cover them in some pepper, because I do like pepper on my stuff in general. Flip those over. I know you can't see it right now, but hey, just trust the process, alright? Monkey probably smells the steaks. Alright, I didn't put a crazy amount of pepper on there, but we put some pepper on these steaks. So I'm probably going to cook these steaks separately because I'm not that much of a pro yet, but eventually we'll get there. Kung Pao penis! Alright, so when it starts to smoke, I'm going to go ahead and turn it down a little bit, take it off, because I don't want it to burn. And that's when you know it's probably hot enough and you don't need it any hotter than that. Also, go ahead and get you a stick of butter. I am not 100% certain if you're supposed to use salted or unsalted. I already put a bunch of salt on my steak, so I don't know if this is going to be a problem, but this is what I got right now. All right, so let's go ahead and start the steak. I'm going to go ahead and do the fat side first, down. What you want to do is do a little sear on that, so get a nice crust on that side of the steak. Kind of try and press it down to get as even of a
crust as you can. A little bit more for sure. Let's go ahead and turn the temperature up a little bit because it doesn't seem to be smoking anymore. I think I lowered the temperature a little bit too much. Okay, it's a nice little crust right there. Let's go ahead and get that on the other side as well. And I'm going for a medium rare steak, which I'm not sure if I'm gonna properly accomplish that, but you don't wanna cook it too much on either side if you're going for medium rare, because you really don't want it to be too overcooked on the inside. So when you do cook it on either side, you only wanna do it for about a minute, minute and a half, I believe. So there we go. Go ahead and put on that steak now. So it's not going to be as juicy as if it were like a ribeye or something like that, because there's not as much fat on this one, but it's going to probably be hopefully juicier than something like a filet mignon. That's going to be mignon, something that's less fatty and just more lean, a lean cut of beef. You really want it to be hot enough to where it's like really searing it on each side, because you don't want it to cook low and slow. You don't want it to have to cook for a long time in order to thoroughly cook. You want it to be like a flash, a quick cook on each side. That's why it's called a sear. Let's check it really quick before I flip. I think that might be, I'll give it about 10-15 more seconds and then I'll flip it. All right, let's go ahead and flip that. There we go, look at that crust. That is actually pretty good. That's better than I expected it to be, so I'm very happy with that. Like I said, if you like a juicier steak, you really don't want to cook this for too long. And if you have the temperature too low, you're going to have to cook it longer. And if you have the temperature really high, you're not going to have to cook it as long, because it's going to be cooked fast from the outside. But that's something you also have to keep in mind. You want to balance, because if you cook it too much on the outside, too fast, then you could risk burning it without cooking the inside properly, and then if it's not done enough on the inside, then you might not even enjoy it. So want to make sure we do that properly. All right, let's go ahead and take this off really quick. What I'm going to go ahead and do is put that on a separate plate. We're going to go lower the temperature, and we are going to, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to get some of this oil off so it's not all burnt onto the steak when we do our butter baste. So just let that steak sit for a second. So as you can see, I got a little oil on there, which is not optimal, but now what we're going to go ahead and do is put our rosemary and thyme on top of the steak like this. Go ahead and put those on the steak. We're going to throw that back in the pan. We're going to put it towards the top, and then we're going to throw in some butter. Throwing a good 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of butter in. And you don't want it to burn the butter, so I'm taking it even further off of the stove, but this is what you're kind of wanting to get. You're wanting that bubbling kind of thing down here. And now we're going to go ahead and throw in our garlic down here so that garlic's cooking inside of the butter. So this is what we do want. So we're just going to start spooning this onto the steak. So this is going to be cooking the steak even more thoroughly through while adding more flavor into it, because the garlic, the rosemary, the thyme, and yeah, don't be afraid to put a lot of butter in there. You're probably gonna have leftover more than you actually use, but like I said, just keep spooning it onto there, and I might even need more so that I can properly continue spooning this. We all love spooning around here, so. And once you've done it a good bit, go ahead and turn over your steak. Same thing, put those herbs on there, and then just baste your steak. So now what we're going to go ahead and do, and this is arguably the most important part, which I actually just found out about. We are going to put the steak on our plate, and we're gonna let it rest. So we're gonna let it rest for about 6-7 minutes, I believe, 7 to 10 minutes. And that is where all the flavor is going to be trapped in the steak so that your steak is juicy and all the juices don't come out as soon as you cut the steak. So we're gonna go ahead and let this one rest as we cook our other one. All right, so here's how the first steak came out. I haven't cut it open yet, but I would say this looks really good. So I'm pretty excited to cut into this one. Let's go ahead and get some taste testing done. All right, so I don't know if you can tell, but I think I did an okay job. It's not the best. It's not like the perfect medium rare. As you can tell, it's pretty cooked on the inside. I would say this is probably closer to, I'm not a steak pro, but probably closer to like a medium, medium well, unfortunately. But actually, let's go ahead and check. No, the inside is feeling pretty tender still. That's good. It's definitely not a medium. I would say it's closer to a medium. But look at this crust. There's a good crust on there. Let's see if you can hear it with the... There's a good crust on there. That's good. And yeah, but the real test is in seeing how it tastes. So let's get a good bite of this. First bite of the New York strip steak. Very salty. I think I was right about the coarse salt. The salt was not coarse enough, so I put too much on. That's all right. But the tenderness is there. Actually, I think I did closer to a medium rare than I thought. I don't know if you can't really tell, but in person, I think I did actually get closer to a medium rare than I thought. It's tender. Very good. Very good. I think I did a great job at this one, actually. I'm not going to lie. This is probably the best medium rare I've ever gotten. And it's not even a ribeye, so... I'm proud of this one. Too salty, for sure, but... The flavor is there. Tenderness is there. It's probably the best, most well-rounded steak I've cooked so far. And as you can tell, it actually is closer to a medium rare, so it looks like I did a pretty decent job. I am very proud of this cook, for sure. We still got the other one to break into, but as you can tell, it's juicy still. Like, parts of it aren't as juicy as others, but when you let it rest, it gets juicy like this instead of just being super dry on the inside, which is exactly what you want. All right, so it's officially rested for over 10 minutes. So now let's go ahead. First, let's get a full look at this thing. It may look burnt, but looks can be deceiving because this thing is perfectly crusted, in my opinion. Can't really, it may look like it's burnt, but I swear, the crust on this thing is amazing. Let's see if you can hear it with the knife. Yeah, good crust. Let's go ahead and cut into this though. Okay, so once again, cook on this thing is a medium rare. This one's cooked even better, I believe. Look how juicy that thing is. Okay, I'm ready to bite into this thing. Look at that. How the fat was cooked. Oh my gosh. Let's just go ahead and show you the tenderness. Look at all that juice is still in there. Awesome. It's a great cook in my opinion. This is definitely the best steak, like medium rare, that I've cooked yet. So I am very proud of this one as well. But it's probably gonna be too salty, but let's see how it is. Either way, I'm an animal, so I'm cutting using my hands. But... all right, bon appetit. Very juicy. Juicy and good. The flavor is awesome. Same thing as the other one though. Definitely too salty in my opinion. I could have used like probably half of that salt, but either way, the steak came out amazing. This is the most balanced, best flavored steak I've made yet. And I cooked it to medium rare to the best that I have so far. So I'm very proud of that. Came out good, tastes good. Just use less salt next time is what I got from this. But overall, this is a great steak, especially for like a New York strip. Well, I just broke my tripod, so I can't do a proper outro from where I wanted. But either way, thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. You learned a little something from me cooking my steak.
hopefully this gives you the courage to go and try and start cooking steaks for yourself. But like I said, let me know if you enjoyed this video or if you want to see more content like this. I really do enjoy making stuff like this, so I'm probably just going to continue doing it just because I enjoy it. But hopefully y'all have an amazing day. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video. See you, homies.